Tonight, you'll do something almost no one in your family line could ever do. You'll heat your food. You'll take something raw and slow and a little dangerous, and you'll hold it over a flame until it turns soft and safe and sweet. You'll do it without thinking. It's the most ordinary thing in the world. But press rewind on that ordinary act, past your kitchen, past the stove, past every cook who ever lived, and you reach a stretch of time so long it's hard to hold in your head. Millions of years, hundreds of thousands of generations. And in all of it, not one warm meal. Every single mouthful, raw. This is the story of what your ancestors ate before fire. And the strange part, the part almost no one tells you, is that you're still carrying the evidence of it. In your jaw, in your gut, in the acid sitting in your stomach right now. So let's go back, all the way back, to the menu before fire. Start with how young fire really is. Our species, Homo sapiens, is only about 300,000 years old. The oldest faces like ours come from a hillside in Morocco called Jebel Irhoud, a modern face set on a long, archaic skull, as if the human face arrived before the rounded human head ever did. But our wider family is far older. The earliest jawbone anyone has ever attributed to our genus, Homo, is almost 2.8 million years old. Just 5 teeth in a fragment of bone lifted out of the Ethiopian desert. Now hold those two numbers, because here comes the one that matters. The oldest fire we can be sure a human tended, burned bone and ash buried 30 meters deep inside Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, far too deep for any wildfire to have reached, is about 1 million years old. And fire as a habit, an everyday thing, a hearth you could count on? Younger still, only around 400,000 years ago. Do the arithmetic softly. For most of the time there have been creatures we'd call human, there was no cooking at all. The raw world wasn't a brief, hungry prologue to our story. It was the story, longer than everything that came after it put together. So what did they eat? Meat, but not the meat you're picturing. Stone tools are older than our genus itself. The oldest ever found, on the western shore of Lake Turkana in Kenya, are 3.3 million years old, shaped by hands that weren't quite ours yet. And soon after, those tools start leaving marks on bone. By 2.5 million years ago, at a site in Ethiopia called Buri, there's an antelope jaw scored with cut marks in exactly the place you'd slice to take the tongue. A butcher's gesture, frozen for 2.5 million years. But raw meat is not a soft food. Uncooked muscle is tough, all fiber and gristle, and it fights the teeth. That's part of why those early skulls carry such heavy jaws and such broad, grinding molars. They had no choice. Chewing was labor. And the real prize was never the muscle. It was hidden inside the bone. Marrow, almost pure fat, close to 770 calories in a single handful, sealed in a vault that a lion's jaws and a hyena's teeth simply could not break. But a creature with a stone and a little patience could. Picture it. A carcass stripped clean by everything else and left behind, and your ancestors arriving last and walking away with the richest part of all, only because they were the one animal who could open the door. Hunters or scavengers? For a long time, that was the argument. The honest answer now is both. At a 2-million-year-old site in Kenya, they brought home whole small antelope that looks like hunting, and also the cracked open heads of larger animals, carried back just for the fat of the brain. They took whatever the day gave them. And here's where it stops being history and starts being you. Because you never left that world cleanly. You're still wearing pieces of it. Your stomach, right now, sits at a pH of about 1.5, acidic enough to corrode metal. That's the acidity of a scavenger, of a vulture, of an animal built to eat things found rather than fresh. Your closest cousin, the chimpanzee, has a far gentler stomach than yours. Yours is a gate, a chemical bouncer, and one of the things it may have been built for is letting your ancestors survive meat that was a little too old, and water that was a little too dirty, and live to forage another day. And then there are the passengers. As a species, we carry 3 kinds of tapeworm: For years, everyone assumed we caught them from our farm animals, from cattle, from pigs. But the genetics tell a stranger story. Our tapeworms are nested among the tapeworms of hyenas and lions. We didn't get them from the farm, we got them from the kill, from crouching over the same carcasses as the big cats, somewhere between 1.5 million years and 170,000 years ago. Long, long before anyone planted a seed or lit a hearth. They're a souvenir of the savanna, and most of us could still carry one today. You are, in the quietest way, a living archive of the raw world. But meat was never the main event. For most ancestors, in most places, most of the calories came from plants. And plants, raw, are their own kind of trap. Picture a wild tuber, fat with starch. It looks like a meal. But raw, that starch is locked inside a hard, crystalline structure your body can barely prise open. You can eat it, and still lose most of it. A large share passes straight through you, untouched. Cooking is what breaks the lock. Heat makes the starch swell and burst, and the calories finally pour out. For something like a potato, cooking lifts the energy you can actually absorb by roughly a third. Before fire, that third was simply gone. We know exactly how costly raw is, because some people still choose it. When researchers followed more than 500 long-term raw food eaters, the bodies told the story without a word. Steady weight loss, and among women under 45, about a third stopped menstruating altogether, the body's oldest signal that it isn't getting enough. The raw diet was never some lost paradise we foolishly walked away from. It was hard. It was hunger held at arm's length. So the pre-fire plate leaned toward the plants that ask nothing of a flame. Ripe fruit, whose sugars you can use the instant you swallow them. Nuts and seeds, dense with oil. Soft leaves and shoots. And one creature in the fossil record makes it unforgettable. Paranthropus boisei, nicknamed Nutcracker Man for a skull like a vice and molars like dinner plates. For decades, everyone was certain those teeth were for cracking nuts. Then they read the chemistry sealed inside his enamel. He wasn't cracking nuts at all. He was eating grass, sedges and tropical grasses, nearly 4/5 of everything he ate. The most powerful jaws in our entire family tree, built to chew a salad. Sometimes the body isn't a weapon. It's a confession of how hard the food really was. There were richer things, too. Things that needed no tools and no fire. Insects. We say it with a flinch now, but they were a gift. Termites, grubs, beetle larvae, fat and protein for the taking all year round, no risk at all. And we don't have to imagine it. Watch a chimpanzee, our closest living relative, our clearest window onto the raw life. Strip a twig, slide it carefully into a termite mound, and fish. At some sites, they eat more than 200 different plant foods, hunt monkeys now and then, and yet meat is barely 1 or 2% of their year. The raw life is, overwhelmingly, a gathered one. And then, the jackpot. Honey. 300 calories in a single handful, pure, instant energy, needing nothing. No cutting, no grinding, no flame. The only obstacle was the bees. And even there, our ancestors may have had a partner. In Africa, there's a small bird, the greater honey guide, that will actually lead a person to a hidden hive, chattering and flitting from tree to tree, waiting for you to do the dangerous work of breaking it open so it can feed on the wax you leave behind. Among the Hadza, who still hunt honey this way, that little bird raises their success at finding nests by more than 500%. They call honey their favorite food in the world. A pact between a person and a wild bird, written down nowhere, taught by no one, and possibly older than memory itself. It wasn't only the food that was raw. The water was, too. Every stream and pool carrying things a single minute of boiling would have killed, if only there'd been a flame to boil it. And a kill could not be kept. With no fire to smoke it, no way to dry it, meat began to rot within days in the heat. So you couldn't hoard it, you could only share it, quickly, with everyone, and trust that next time, when someone else made the kill, the sharing would come back around to you. It's possible that one of the oldest and warmest things we do, feeding each other, didn't begin as kindness at all. It began as the only answer to meat that wouldn't keep. Think about what that life asked of a creature. To know which water was safe and which was slow poison. To read the seasons, the migrations, the ripening. To track 100 foods across a moving year, crack the one bone the lions couldn't, and give away the kill before it turned. None of it came from being strong or fast. Our ancestors were neither. What they had was the one thing that carried forward into you, the power to adapt, to think, to switch, to make do. So when you sit down tonight and warm your food without a second thought, soft and safe and sweet, know what you're really holding, not just dinner, the end of a story millions of years long. You are the first kind of human who gets to forget all of it, the toughness, the rot, the parasites, the hunger always one bad season away. But your body hasn't forgotten. The acid is still there, the jaw, the gut, the deep pull toward fat and sugar that once kept someone alive, all of it still there, humming quietly under the surface of an ordinary meal. You didn't escape the raw world. You're just the first one allowed to sleep through it.